Hello everyone, and welcome back to the How to Better English podcast. I'm Liam, and I am incredibly excited to be here with you again this week.
And I'm Emma. Liam, it's great to be back. We have a topic today that is truly foundational for anyone serious about mastering English, or frankly, mastering anything at all.
That's absolutely right. Emma, today we are talking about setting goals, not just wishing for better English, but creating concrete, actionable goals that will actually move you forward on your language journey. It's about building a roadmap.
A roadmap is the perfect analogy. Before we dive into the specifics of planning and execution, we just want to take a moment to thank all of you who listen every week. We truly appreciate your support.
Yes, your support helps us reach more learners just like you. So, if you find value in our episodes, please take a moment right now to subscribe, like, and share this episode with a friend, a classmate, or anyone else who is trying to better their English. It makes a huge difference to us.
It certainly does. Now, Liam, let's talk goals. When I work with students, I often hear, "I want to be fluent." And while that is a lovely ultimate aspiration, it's not a goal you can action tomorrow. It's too broad, too abstract.
That's the crux of the issue, isn't it? Many people confuse a desire with a goal. A desire is simply the I wish I were fluent. A goal is the specific target you aim for, complete with a timeline and an action plan.
Exactly. The difference between a simple desire and a genuine goal is often the level of commitment and specificity applied to it. If you just say, "I want better English," how will you know when you have achieved it? How will you track that progress? You can't.
It creates this vague, ongoing sense of disappointment because you never actually feel like you've arrived. To avoid that sense of stagnation, we need to employ specific strategies for goal setting. And the number one framework we recommend, which applies universally, is the SMART framework.
The tried and true SMART method. This is where we take that vague desire for fluency and transform it into something tangible. For our listeners who may not have encountered this before, SMART is an acronym where each letter represents a crucial component of a well-defined goal.
Let's break that down, letter by letter, and apply it directly to English learning. We start with the S for specific. Your goal must clearly define what you want to achieve. Not learn grammar, but master the passive voice in past tense constructions.
That specificity is vital because it eliminates guesswork. If the goal is specific, you immediately know what resources you need, which textbook chapter to open, or which podcast episode to re-listen to. A specific goal defines the scope of your effort.
Think of it like this. If you tell a taxi driver, "Take me somewhere nice," they can't help you. If you say, "Take me to the National Museum on Elm Street," that's specific. In English, specificity means identifying the exact skill, vocabulary set, or grammatical structure you intend to conquer.
Absolutely. And that leads us perfectly to the M, which stands for measurable. This is perhaps the most important part of our discussion today, especially when it comes to long-term motivation. A measurable goal means you can quantify your progress.
If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. How do we apply that to English? Instead of saying, "I want to learn more words," which is not measurable, you say, "I will learn 20 new high-frequency academic vocabulary words every week."
That is perfectly measurable. By the end of the week, if you hit 20 words or not, or if your goal is speaking focused, maybe it's, "I will participate in a 30-minute English conversation exchange every Tuesday and Thursday evening." You can track the time and the frequency.
Exactly. Measurement doesn't always have to be about quantity, though often it is. It can also be about quality, provided you define the metric. For example, "I will write 3 short essays, 200 words each, this month, and ensure I make 0 basic agreement errors in the final drafts." You can measure those error counts.
The measurement aspect is what allows you to track progress, which we will discuss in depth later. But for now, remember that measurability provides undeniable proof of success. It gives you a reason to celebrate.
And speaking of celebrating, let's move to the A, achievable. A goal must be realistic. This requires honesty about your current level, your available time, and your energy resources.
We've all been there, Liam, setting an impossible goal, like I will become fluent in 3 months while working full-time and raising 3 children. It sounds motivating on day 1, but it is a recipe for burnout and failure by week 2.
It's demoralizing. An achievable goal stretches you but doesn't break you. If you currently study for 1 hour per week, setting a goal of 10 hours per week might be too much too fast. Maybe aim for 3 hours per week first. That's challenging but achievable.
It is about finding the sweet spot, that point where the goal is hard enough to be satisfying but not so difficult that it feels utterly impossible. Achievable goals build momentum.
Now for R, relevant. The goal must matter to you personally and align with your larger, long-term aspirations. If you are learning English primarily for professional meetings, spending all your time mastering romantic poetry might not be the most relevant path right now.
Relevance ensures sustained motivation. If the goal directly impacts your job prospects, your university studies, or your ability to travel and connect with people you care about, you are far more likely to stick with it when things get tough.
Ask yourself, why am I doing this? If the answer is clear, to pass a specific exam, to apply for a promotion, or to enjoy English media without subtitles, then your goal is relevant and you have built-in motivation.
And finally, the T4 time-bound. Every goal needs a deadline. Without a deadline, a goal is just a task that you keep postponing indefinitely.
The deadline creates urgency and forces action. I will read one English novel is vague. I will finish reading The Old Man and the Sea by Ernest Hemingway by the end of October is time-bound. You know exactly when the work needs to be done.
That time-bound element is what transforms intent into execution. So, before anyone sets a single goal, we encourage them to run it through the SMART filter. Is it specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound? If it fails any of those tests, go back and refine it.
That's fantastic foundational advice, Emma. But once you have that big, smart, time-bound goal, say, passing the C1 advanced exam in 6 months, that can still feel overwhelming. 6 months is a long time. You need things to celebrate along the way. And that brings us to the concept of the milestone.
The milestone. This is a term we absolutely want our listeners to internalize. A milestone is a significant point in your journey. It's a checkpoint, a smaller, manageable victory that proves you are on the right path toward your ultimate, bigger goal.
Think about driving across a vast country. The final destination might be 3,000 miles away. That distance is daunting. But the milestones, the signs telling you you've reached the next major city or the next state line, those are the milestones that keep you motivated because they show clear progress.
In English learning, if your ultimate goal is C1 in 6 months, a successful milestone might be completing a practice test at the B2 level by month 2, or mastering all modal verbs by week 5. These are smaller, self-contained goals that contribute to the larger outcome.
We strongly recommend breaking down every large goal into 3 to 5 core milestones. These smaller achievements prevent burnout. When you hit a milestone, you get a psychological boost, a little shot of dopamine that says, yes, I am capable of doing this.
And critically, milestones allow you to assess your strategy early on. If you set a 1-month milestone and you completely fail to hit it, you haven't wasted 6 months before realizing your plan was flawed. You realize it after 4 weeks, and you have plenty of time to adjust course.
Let's give some specific examples of what good, achievable English milestones look like, separated by skill area.
Starting with reading, if your final goal is to read a nonfiction book entirely in English by year-end, a milestone could be read and fully understand the first 3 chapters of the target book by the end of next month.
For listening, maybe the ultimate goal is understanding 90% of a native speaker podcast at regular speed. A milestone could be spend 20 minutes daily listening to news reports in English and summarize the main idea of one report weekly for the next 3 weeks.
And for speaking, if the ultimate goal is to give a 5-minute presentation at work entirely in English, a good early milestone is memorize and successfully deliver a 3-minute casual monologue about my hobbies to a language partner, making only minimal pauses by the end of this form.
Notice how all those milestones share characteristics. They are small, they are specific, they are measurable, and they have a short, immediate deadline, usually within 2 to 4 weeks. They are mini SMART goals.
That structure makes everything feel manageable. We often fail at huge goals because the starting line looks too far away from the finish line. Milestones shorten that perceived distance, making the goal psychologically accessible.
It's the constant feeling of winning. You don't have to wait 6 months to win. You win a small victory every few weeks, and those small wins accumulate into the big win.
And that accumulation naturally brings us to the next crucial component of goal setting: accountability. Once you have your goal and your milestones, you need a system to ensure you are actually doing the work. This is where we learn how to track progress.
Tracking progress is essential. It moves the effort from the realm of feeling, I think I'm studying hard, to the realm of fact. I know I completed 6 hours of study this week.
There are many practical ways to track progress. The simplest and most immediate way is a study journal or a calendar. You mark off the days you study and write down exactly what you accomplished. Did you complete the vocabulary set? Did you practice the irregular past tense verbs? Note it down.
I'm a huge fan of digital tracking tools. Whether it's a simple spreadsheet, an app designed for language learning, or even a shared document with your accountability partner, having a visual representation of your progress is powerful. You see the gaps, but more importantly, you see the streaks of success.
A visual record is highly motivating. If you can look back and see that you have consistently practiced listening every day for the last 40 days, you are far less likely to skip day 41 because you don't want to break the chain.
And let's talk about the accountability partner, Emma. This is a game changer for many learners. This person, whether it's a friend, a teacher, or another learner, knows your goals and checks in on your progress regularly.
They provide that crucial external pressure. Knowing that someone else is going to ask, "Did you hit your milestone this week?" can often be enough to make you sit down and study when you might otherwise feel lazy.
And they don't just track the positive outcomes. A good accountability system also tracks where you struggle. If you notice, after tracking progress for 4 weeks, that you keep missing your speaking practice goals, then the system has flagged a weakness you need to address.
That data is invaluable. Tracking progress is not just about ticking boxes. It's about collecting data points on your learning efficiency. Are the methods you are using working? Are you spending too much time on easy tasks and neglecting challenging ones? The data tells the truth.
Let's elaborate on a method I use for tracking vocabulary progress. Instead of just studying flashcards, I track the application of the words. If the goal is to use 10 new words correctly in conversation this week, I keep a log of those 10 words and check them off only when I've used them appropriately in a real-life sentence. Documented by my language partner.
That's a powerful method because it tracks output, not just input. It transforms passive knowledge into active, usable language. Another powerful tracking method involves error analysis for writing.
Oh, tell us more about error analysis tracking, Emma.
Well, if your measurable goal is to reduce errors in written English, you don't just write essays. You track the type of error. You might use a simple tally system, one column for subject-verb agreement errors, another for tense consistency errors, and a third for article usage mistakes.
I see. So you are tracking not only how many mistakes you made, but specifically where the patterns of mistakes lie.
Precisely. If, after tracking 5 pieces of writing, you notice 80% of your errors fall into the article usage category, missing the N or the, then you know exactly where to direct your study efforts for the next 2 weeks. You can adjust your specific goal to target that weakness. That's tracking progress efficiently.
That's brilliant because it saves time. You stop randomly studying everything and start studying only what gives you the highest return on investment in terms of fluency and accuracy.
Now, Liam, despite all this careful planning, despite setting SMART goals and rigorous tracking and hitting several milestones, sometimes things still go wrong. Life intervenes. The goal was too ambitious. Or maybe your initial assessment of your current ability was simply incorrect. What happens then? This is where we learn the skill of how to adjust course.
This is a crucial skill, and it requires a positive mindset. Adjusting course is not failure, it is wisdom. It is recognizing that your initial strategy, your initial timeline, was a hypothesis. And the data, the tracking progress, has now shown that hypothesis needs refinement.
Exactly. Let's say a learner set a goal to read 50 pages of an academic journal per week. After 4 weeks of diligent tracking, they realize they are only managing 25 pages, and they feel completely exhausted and discouraged. Continuing that goal at 50 pages is simply setting them up for guaranteed burnout.
In that scenario, they must adjust course. That means formally revising the goal. They changed the goal from 50 pages per week to 25 pages per week, plus 30 minutes of targeted vocabulary review.
That's the key distinction. They haven't quit, they've simply recalibrated to make the goal achievable again. They adjusted the speed and perhaps the focus, acknowledging their reality.
The language of adjust course comes from sailing or navigation. A ship captain sets a course, but if the wind changes or a storm approaches, they don't give up and sink the ship. They adjust the sails, they change the angle, they take a different route, all still aiming for the final destination.
And as English learners, we need to be our own captains. If your study time suddenly shrinks because of a major life event, adjust the goal. If your goal was to spend 10 hours a week studying and you now only have 5, set a new 5-hour goal, but be ruthless in maximizing the efficiency of those 5 hours.
Sometimes adjusting course means changing the method entirely. If you initially set a goal to learn vocabulary solely through flashcards and after a month you find you never actually use the words in speech, then adjust course.
Instead of abandoning the words, you adjust the learning strategy. I will spend the next 3 weeks practicing my current vocabulary list by creating 3 short dialogues using each word. Instead of just flipping flashcards, that's a strategic adjustment.
The danger is letting a missed milestone derail the whole project. If you miss a milestone, don't throw away the whole map. Look at the data, figure out why you missed it, and then implement the correction immediately. Adjust course, and keep moving forward.
And let's emphasize the psychological benefit of adjusting course. It transforms a perceived failure into a successful learning experience. When you adjust course based on data, you are acting intelligently, demonstrating maturity in your learning approach.
We wanted to share a brief story about one of our listeners who successfully employed this method. We'll call him Marco. Marco's big goal was to feel comfortable enough to network professionally in English within 12 months.
A great, relevant goal. So, Marco's first 3-month milestone was ambitious. Attend 3 professional networking events and speak to at least 5 people at each event for 5 minutes or more.
He tracked his progress rigorously. He found that attending the events was fine, but consistently engaging 5 people for 5 minutes was exhausting. And he usually only managed 2 or 3 brief conversations before retreating.
So, he missed the first milestone. He could have been discouraged, but instead, he decided to adjust course. He realized the problem wasn't his lack of vocabulary, but rather his lack of stamina and confidence in spontaneous professional talk.
His adjustment was smart. He lowered the expectation for the next milestone, attend one event, and spend 15 minutes talking to just one person, focusing entirely on listening skills and asking high-quality follow-up questions. He deliberately shifted the focus from high output to high-quality engagement.
And he succeeded. He hit that revised milestone. This allowed him to rebuild his confidence. He then slowly ramped up the complexity in subsequent milestones, integrating the lessons learned from his initial struggle. By the end of the year, he was successfully networking.
That story encapsulates all 3 key ideas we've discussed: setting clear goals, recognizing the importance of milestones, tracking progress to identify the problem, and having the courage to adjust course when necessary.
Remember that language learning is not a race, Liam. It is a long expedition. And on any long journey, flexibility is your greatest tool. The path you plan on day one is rarely the exact path you end up taking.
That's such an encouraging perspective. Learners often feel guilty when they have to slow down or change their plan. We want to reinforce that guilt is counterproductive. Self-correction is necessary for mastery.
We need to adopt a growth mindset where every setback is just data, leading us toward a better plan. The data from tracking progress helps us identify whether our challenges are due to lack of effort or simply a faulty strategy. If the strategy is faulty, we adjust course.
So, let's bring it all back to a simple, actionable challenge for our listeners this week. If you have been vaguely saying, "I want to speak better English," stop right now.
Step 1. Transform that wish into a SMART goal. Make it specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Example, I will complete Units 1 through 5 of my Business English textbook by the end of next month, spending 45 minutes studying every weekday.
Step 2. Break that goal down into a mini SMART goal, a crucial milestone. Example, I will successfully complete Unit 1 and pass the practice quiz by this Friday afternoon.
Step 3. Establish a simple way to track progress. Use a notebook, a calendar, or a spreadsheet. Mark down every time you complete a study session. If you missed a session, write down why.
Step 4. Review your tracking data at the end of the week. If you failed to hit your milestone, don't worry. Sit down, look at the data, and make an intelligent decision to adjust course for the following week. Maybe you only managed 3 study sessions instead of 5.
Then, adjust. Next week, I will only aim for 4 sessions. But I will make those sessions 60 minutes long instead of 45. You maintain the uncommitment while adjusting the structure.
This structured approach removes emotion from the learning process and replaces it with strategy. It turns anxiety into action.
Absolutely, goal setting is the difference between aimlessly wandering and purposeful movement. And we want all of our listeners moving purposefully towards their fluency goals.
Before we wrap up today, let's quickly review the 3 key vocabulary concepts we highlighted that are essential for successful goal setting.
First, the milestone. Remember, this is the small, achievable checkpoint along your journey. It gives you short-term wins and validation.
Second, track progress. This is your data collection mechanism. Whether a notebook or an app, tracking is how you know if your efforts are paying off and where your weaknesses lie.
And third, adjust course. This is the skill of flexibility. It's what you do when the data shows your initial plan was flawed. It's intelligence, not failure.
Excellent summary, Emma. We hope this deep dive into goal setting has given everyone the tools and encouragement they need to build their own effective English learning plan.
We certainly hope so. If you have successfully set and hit a milestone recently, or if you have a great strategy for how you track progress, we would love to hear about it. Join the conversation wherever you listen to our podcast.
And finally, a reminder. If you enjoyed this episode, please help us reach more learners by hitting that subscribe button and leaving us a rating or review. It's how the show grows and reaches people who need these planning strategies.
Thank you so much for joining us for this incredibly motivating episode of How to Better English podcast.
We'll be back next week with another topic designed to help you move forward. Until then, keep setting those SMART goals and keep practicing.
Bye for now.
Goodbye.